So twin flames, by definition, are two individuals holding the masculine and feminine polarity of God, two individuals who hold the identical electronic blueprint in life. It is then the matrix of each one's own I am presence, each one's individual Christ self. Each one is a full and whole and complete person and intended again to become the androgynous whole, but forevermore in service, in holding the balance of life, in holding the flame of God as Father and as Mother. That counterpart is the one, is irreplaceable, and wherever that counterpart is, anywhere in cosmos, there is the link, there is the tie, and every thought and feeling, everything we do, affects the other half of the divine whole.
Subscribers, your video is ready. Hello, LGBTQ plus DL men, women who secretly love us and support us. And if you don't identify with any of those labels, you're still free to subscribe to the channel. So, as you see, I found the lecture, and this lecture is from Elizabeth. How did I forget her name that fast? Elizabeth Clare. No pun intended with the last name Claire, but because I remembered, but it was like kind of like a claircognizant thought. Anyway, or a clairvoyant type of thought. Anyway, let's get into the topic of this video, which is twin flames, because again, this is the Twin Flame Diaries, and if you're wondering what I have in my bowl, it is Oatly ice cream, the Oatly strawberry ice cream, and the Oatly vanilla ice cream with some bananas, because again, in my most previous video, I stated that I enjoy ice cream, and because I'm trying to eat more healthy and plant-based, this was like the plant-based alternative to dairy. So because of the thumbnail, you're probably wondering, how does this have anything to do with Mr. and Mr. Smith? And if you haven't seen the series, it is is good. But I enjoyed the first Mr. and Mrs. Smith, so I knew that I was going to enjoy it. But how it pertains, or how it is perceived to me that it pertains to the Twin Flame journey, is that you may have heard that, or have known that when you started to do your mission work as a twin flame, they call it the soul mission, because the journey of a twin flame is about the soul. And so many people have the understanding, and how Elizabeth was explaining it, is that this one soul is split into two bodies. And so when you meet this other person, you realize that there's this soul connection. And she speaks about how when you are searching for a mate, you may find them. And I'm not sure if she said that in that particular video, but I know that she said it within the lecture. And the first time that I came across her video, it was actually on on TikTok. And most people know that when they're on this twin flame journey, or people that are on the journey, they know that they didn't have to search for the twin flame journey. It found them. Like, it found me, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? And when I heard I think her name is Michelle Fondin, when she spoke about it, she was saying that she was kind of like, what is this journey? And then that's when she received more signs, and then that's when she had the realization of who her twin was. And I think that for myself, even with the video that Elizabeth's Prophet video was stitched to, when I saw it stitched to another video, I just like maybe like a couple minutes ago realized that there was also a sign that the person that stitched it had something similar about my twin flame. Like although it was a remembrance that I'm on the twin flame journey, the person that it was stitched to had like, it was like a sign to say, hey, this is to remind you who your twin flame is. And it also had a remembrance of like my own experience. So it's kind of like showing that me and my twin are twin flames. Anyway, getting into the show and pertaining it to the twin flame journey, most of the time when you hear a mission, like a soul, like a mission without the soul part, but when you hear the word mission, you think agent. And if you don't think agent, if you don't think like undercover agent or whatever, I don't know. What do you think about when you hear the word mission? Or like a mission trip with church or whatever. I think that how there are resembling things within the twin flame journey and the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith and the series Mr. and Mrs. Smith is because most people realize that when they are on the twin flame journey, they realize that there are a lot of triggering things that may arise when you're with your twin. And I'm going to give you an example of something that my twin and I experienced. And it was like the realization that, oh, this is what they mean by triggering. So my twin had needed a new tire for his vehicle, and I was staying with him and his mom at the time, but he was kind of being distant at this time. So when he but he was also working, But anyway, his mom was like, yeah. She was telling him that he could go ahead and, my twin, she was telling him that he should get a tire from the junkyard to replace the tire on the car that he had. And before he left, she said, and Kevin, you can go too. And I was like, girl, I don't want to go in. Because we were in that place of already kind of being distant. And it was kind of like the universe saying, like, you need to go. So I was like, okay, I don't go. I wasn't trying to be that way, but I think that within him kind of being distant, it kind of was just like, well, I don't want to be around him if he don't want to be around me. Like, bitch, wait. Anyway, continuing on. When we went to the junkyard, it was kind of like, I had just recently got like some money or whatever, and he purchased my way into the junkyard. Like, this is like a car junkyard, right? Where they have all the, cars that have been in accidents and cars that just whatever, they are at this place, and it's like a cheaper alternative to getting the new versus a new tire, so anyway, when we went there, and this is good. When we went there, he paid for my way in, and I was kind of like, he's never done that before. But anyway, we went in, and it was the first time that I remember him doing something like that. Anyway, when we went to go looking for the vehicles and the cars and stuff like that, it was very difficult to find. And I was like, when we were searching for his type of vehicle's wheel, we found a vehicle that had a wheel on it, but we didn't have like he didn't have a key within his vehicle to like unlock the bolt. Like they have like a key lock bolt on the car wheel, and he didn't have one in his car, and so we were kind of searching inside of the cars for them, and we had been out there for quite a little while, and he got frustrated like in the midst of us looking for keys within these different cars. And I'm kind of like, I think that it's probably in here, and I think that it's probably in there, I think that it's probably in there. So it just kind of got frustrating. And at that time I was kind of doing things with pendulums, and like a pendulum, you can actually use it to find certain things, like if you ask for certain things. But I don't think I had my pendulum on me, but I was kind of trying to understand my gifts, understand my clairsentience. And for you that do not understand clairsentience is the ability to clearly feel. So sometimes what they call it is angels will send you nudges to allow you to know that something is about to happen, or to give you a feeling of direction. Like clairsentience is like the ability to clearly feel. You may receive like what they call it, like pulsing in your body, or some people think of it as chills, or like there's all different types of signs that you may feel clairsentiently, right? And when he got frustrated, he was just like, well, I'm going to the car, like fuck it. Like he couldn't find the key lock. And so as I'm still looking for it, because I'm thinking it has to be here, they just wouldn't have just not have the key, right? The key lock, the key to the bolt lock on for the wheel. And so as I'm walking back to the vehicle, and it was getting ready to close, cause so we had been out there for maybe an hour or more, and it had started drizzling and stuff. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, or I'm probably going to put that in another video. Yeah, probably so. Anyway, when we got ready to walk back to the vehicle, I noticed that there was a stand with all of the key locks on it. And when I went back to the vehicle to tell him that, because they were already closing, he was already frustrated because I couldn't find it, he couldn't find it, and he was kind of just he had given up. And I had told him hey, I had seen there's a stand with all of the key locks, and because I don't think I had my money on me, because what, I think I had spent my money at Walmart to get some things like soap and a couple of food items, and I got soap for the bathroom and things like that. And so when I got back to the vehicle, he was kind of just over it. So he didn't try to go back in, and I kind of was telling him because we had already it's like we had went to every other brand of car that he had to try to find a key lock, but it was already at the the front desk, the station. They have two desks. They have the desk that you can kind of enter in, and they have this parts desk, say if you need something like a wrench or something like that, you can go to the desk and get a tool maybe to get something off. But most people bring their own tools, but I just didn't know that. It was my first time at a car junkyard, so after that, it was kind of I understood that it was triggering for him, you know? And especially, you know, I had already been open to him about wanting to be intimate with him, and he was speaking about not being that way, like not being gay, you know? So there was already kind of like this weird tension between us, but not enough that we couldn't be cordial and communicate a little. So, you know, a lot of times in this soul mission, you are working through these triggering things, right? And no matter how much you may want to end the mission, like within the newest version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because this is still fresh, I'm not sure how many of you have watched it, but girl, it took me like maybe 2 days. I probably would have watched it in one day if I would have been aware that if I would have been aware earlier that day that it was already out. But I think I didn't realize that it was out until like maybe 6 o'clock. So when I got through most of this, like half of the season that night, I watched the next rest of it that like the next day. So when we went on this journey, and what I was saying about the show, because many of you, I don't know how far you are in the show, there's this part where and this part is just coming up, so I'm gonna speak about it. But you know that part where Jane Smith, she gets kind of suspicious about his hangouts with the woman that was like a operative of another spy firm or whatever, you like a spy. She was another spy from a different company, and how when she went over there, and then, you know, she's just like, are you cheating on me, kind of just like asking questions, you know. She's triggered, but in the beginning of the series, she's kind of saying that she doesn't trust, you know, she doesn't trust easily. And so throughout the rest of the through in the like the ending parts, and like this is at the very end, so if y'all watch the whole series, then you know about this part. But there's a truth serum, and he not only injects it into her, but he injects it into himself, so that he kind of is like showing like, hey, you can trust me, and this is what I want from, you know. He was speaking about wanting a child and all of these things. So if you haven't watched the series, I'm not trying to ruin it for you, but I think that it's important to say that, like, I heard at some point in the twin flame journey that the divine masculine will often kind of I heard it this way. The divine masculine will hurt the divine feminine, but in a way to awaken her to knowing that she can trust him fully. That's the way that I'm going to explain it. And I don't think that hurt is the exact word that should be used, but to kind of give you kind of like an explanation, you know, she was telling him that she doesn't trust people. So, you know, and I think that because it is a soul mission, and the soul is like basically a reflection of both of you, right? Whatever you are doing to them is also a reflection of what you're doing to yourself, and in some way it's going to reflect right back to you. So it's kind of like those lyrics, when you lie to me, you lie to yourself, you only lying to yourself. When you play me, you play yourself. Don't hurt yourself. And the hurt in that song is referring to, being lied to and things like that. And I think that most divine feminine have the same type of thought process towards their divine masculine. In it may not be the same, but it's similar, right? They may not trust in the beginning, and vice versa. The masculine may not trust. The masculine may not trust in certain aspects, but I think that you both do triggering, maybe involuntary and unconsciously, to awaken each other. And this is why they say that it's painful. Not like physical pain, and hopefully it isn't metaphysical pain, but I have experienced metaphysical pain to remind me of who my twin is. And that is difficult, especially in the twin flame separation part of the journey. But getting back to the series, I want to say this too. I think that oftentimes when I'm speaking about the twin flame journey, it's kind of like there's this feeling of being like, what do they call it? In the divine reminded me, high risk, like the high risk agents, and how them being high risk, they can take out other agents. But I think that, like, the high risk agent idea, right? When you refer to that as the twin flame journey, you realize that the twin flame journey is already difficult within itself, and so you wouldn't want to, take out any other agents in that way, right? But in the same sense, you are aware that other agents wouldn't mind taking you out, you know? And so then, because of that reason, it's kind of like, what can you speak about within the twin flame journey? What can you be open about? Because how they're saying that they got felt, within the show, the series, they have something like that happens with the fails and things like that. And within the twin flame journey, you may have heard that there isn't true failure, because it's a soul mission. I hope this isn't confusing, you guys, but when I have watched depictions of the twin flame journey, or I'm attracted to certain action-packed movies where there is a representation of divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy, but not in a way. And I think that this is what confuses people, because they often see depictions of a woman and a man. And I think that it would be so awesome to see a representation of divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy, and maybe alike bodies or similar bodies, to kind of break the conditioned idea that the energies have to align with the body. Kind of like, we always see the representation of either the divine feminine will be in a woman or a man, but the couple will be like a man and a woman. I think it would be so cool to see it as like, two men, one holding the divine feminine and one holding the divine masculine. And I think that it would be so awesome to see how, because I think that it would be awesome in the idea that people wouldn't expect for a man to be representing divine feminine energy, And also, like, there would be like the struggle of overcoming the societal norm that male and female have to be together, and that's the only way it is. Because we've all seen the divine feminine in the male character and the masculine energy in the woman. We've seen it that way. At least I've become aware of it. But anyway, getting back on topic. Of course, I would want to play the lead character in a movie like that or a series like that. Start a Mr. and Mr. Smith, or John and John. Oh, Mr. John and John, or the Johns. Sort of like a play. I'm sorry if y'all seen that banana and stuff and y'all was like looking at me. But the Johns. And then within the show is Mr. and Mr. John. I thought of a whole script for Mr. and Mr. John. Where would I send that to? I would have to write it though. It's just in the noggin. The thoughts and the idea is in the noggin. You see in this series how Mr. and Mrs. Smith meet the other Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And, when I recognized that, I thought, oh, wow, it's kind of similar to how within the twin flame journey, you become aware of other twins who are also on the journey. And how it's very similar in the idea of the stages of the twin flame journey, how they have the runner and chaser, they have the triggering, you have the when you first meet them and how you can't stop thinking about them and how you continue to think about them. And at the dinner table of when they're speaking at the dinner table in the series, one of the couples, the other couple that is not like the main couple of the series, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, she speaks about how basically that the mission doesn't end. They don't say it bluntly like that, but basically it's kind of like they have this pact between the main Mr. and Mrs. Smith that when they make enough money, that they'll just end the mission. And so the high risk Mr. and Mrs. Smith speak about how, would it be funny, how funny that would be for the company if the company would allow that, right? So that is kind of like an indication that they can't end their mission. And the same thing with the twin flame journey. I think a lot of people think, even people that aren't on the journey, when they're judging it, they perceive it as, oh, they're just some other person, like, just let them go. And a lot of times on this journey, you realize, oh, I can't let this person go. I can't not think about this person. I can't not do the soul work. I can't not awaken to the highest experience of myself. And the things that you don't learn in this lifetime, you learn in the next lifetime. But yeah. And it's amazing also how in the beginning they started off as kind of like, especially Jane, she kind of had this kind of not wanting to get close and being there for the money, being there for, she was denying the intimate parts of the partnership. And within the journey, you realize that these are important parts of the journey, to experience them not only, for the work that is being done, but to experience them intimately, to allow yourself to have that sexual freedom with them and experience that intimacy. I'm hearing that that's going to be another video. So I just want to say that if you are on this journey, which more than likely, if it wasn't for this, you like seeing the thumbnail of the series and clicking on the video, you're more than likely on this journey of being a twin flame. And I just want to say that, we all are on similar paths. It just may look different. But just like there are some high risk Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there are some low risk Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and there are some medium Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I guess you can say. Yeah. And there can always be communication. Like when, communication is extremely important. And I had been seeing the number 33 a lot. So I had a dream that showed me some of the insecurities within myself. And for you that aren't aware of what the number 33 represents on the twin flame journey, it's about having communication. And so when I saw the vision or the reminder that Jane Smith thought that John Smith killed her cat, she thought that. And so because she got the message about, ending John, did they want her to end John Smith, and she thought that he killed her cat, the lack of communication is what started the disagreement within the series. So you probably know what that is leading up to. But anyway, there was confusion on both ends because they hadn't had communication. But without telling the full, I'll say this part. The truth serum was how they truly realized that it was lack of communication. Because when they started communicating, they realized how much they loved each other. And they realized how when they started to communicate, it was as if, oh, we're perfect for each other, even though we kind of have. He spoke about her being a sociopath and things like that. Watch the series. It's a really good series. I actually have it on in the back, but I just I paused it so that I could do this video. But I thought that it was important to do this video. So if you have watched the series and you are a twin flame, even if you aren't a twin flame, interact with the video, like it, comment, subscribe, and all of those great things. I spoke in a previous video that most channels wouldn't be successful without the help of the subscribers and people supporting the channel. So for that, I am very grateful, and we are over 90 subscribers, so that is very great, and I'm just very grateful for that. So anyway, until we speak again, toodaloo, I love you.
Your twin flame doesn't deserve to have to experience your moods, your self-pity, your self-indulgence. And if you can understand the twin flame as the God counterpart of you, and you have a sense of reverence for God in your life, you may look at yourself and say, I'm not worthy now, but 1 hour from now, I'm going to be worthy. I'm going to remake myself so that I'm irresistible to God, the angels, the masters. They're going to walk and talk with me. They're going to enjoy being in my house. And my twin flame is going to seek and find me.